Yeah. All right.
Okay. So by say we are holding Simin Yud Aleph, which is page Mem Zayin.
Okay.
Page Mem Zayin, Simin Yud Aleph, Dini Chute at Tzitzis Aboy Lamed Hey Sifin. Aleph, Mitzvah Tzitzis Bezman, Sheit Kelos Matzoi, Koye Mitzvasa, Sheikach Beis Chuten Zwoyin, Betzava Hanika Tcheles, Obeis Chuten Sheinen Zwoyim, Hanikroyin Chute Lavan, Sheinen Zwoyim Letzavam, Memela Nisharim Vila Nusam. So Be'etzim, the mitzvah tzitzis was when we had the tchelis around, was to take two strings that are dyed with the dye of tchelis, and two which are not dyed. They're called chuti love and white, not because they have to be white. Because if you don't dye it, naturally it's white. So that's why they're called chuti love. So we take them together. We take four and we double them over. We some knots on them, and but we're turning over four. It's four long strings, even though they turn out to be eight, but it's four doubled over, bent over. ועכשיו שאין לנו תחילס, צריך לקח בזכות אליו וממקם בזכות התחילס. ושאין ציצס פוחס מדל חוטן שם גדילים תעשלך, ואין גדיל פוחס מבייס חוטן. שגוידן זה על גב זה. Gedil means when something is twined together. So a gedil is not just a string, not a chut. It's a gedil is when you have two strings twined together. Now, it says gedilim tasalach. You should make two gedilim. So I mean that means at least four. In pachis, shoy megdim I can arba. Hoisif afilu chut echad ala dal chutin and over abal toisif. You can't add any more. You add even one more chut. You're over on the veda bal toisif. You're not allowed to add to the Torah. V'lechein oisa hatidisha hoisif ba chut psula and sheyasa chut echad mimeno. If you added a tzitzis, it's also till you take it away. Puzzle till you take it away. Meaning, it's not just an Aveda Bal Toisif on the Gavra, that the Gavra is over. The Cheftza, the tzitzis itself, becomes puzzle. It's famous, the Mashal, the Dubna Magid, he said that, the Shail is, we know about Leisoisif Leisigra. So, Mela Leisigra, you understand what's an issue. You're not, but you do more. What's the problem if you do Moisif? You add more mitzvahs. You can't take away. So he said like this, that there was once someone who came and asked someone if he can borrow from him a spoon, his silver spoon. Silver spoon, okay. He lent it to him. Came back, and it comes back with another spoon, two spoons. So he said, "What happened?" He said the spoon gave birth. This guy is crazy. Something. The spoon gave birth. Okay, but he's happy. He got another silver spoon. A little while later, he asks him, "Can I have your silver ladle?" He said, last time it worked out good. I got two back. So, Shiloh did this, right? So he said, so he got back again. It comes back. What's this? Got back to. Anyways, he keeps on giving. Finally, he gives him something very choshev, the candelabra, the leichter. Comes back. He said, "Where is it?" He said, "It died." He said, "What do you mean? Leichters don't die?" He says, "Yeah, and they don't give birth either." So when you think that's meaning, if you think that something could add to the Torah, you also think it could die also. So if you want to be moisif, you also feel you could be reya because basically you feel that the Torah doesn't have that kedusha to it. Therefore, if I can add, a human being can add. So the viola, you didn't do anything wrong essentially, only added. But the mice is the hargasha is I can add. The feeling is that you can add to something which is godly. A human can add. You also can feel like it also subtract. So today you're adding, and tomorrow you subtract. Okay, base. Put the tzitzis tzrichin shezira. Shenemer psil techele sheyeh tovoi V'shazer kein psila. It should be like a psil. Umat chelas tavi v'shazer loving kain. Shehukshis el zeshem and gdilim tasa. We learned out that the chut of the tzitzis is when the string is made up of a few strings. If you look at your tzitzis, every one of them, sometimes the edges they start to fall apart, come apart. They start to fray, and you see that they're made up of more than one string. So it's shazer together, and just like the chelas, we call it a psil, which is made in that way. So to the lavan. Sichen shiyet you tavim v'shadin l'shem tzizdaka shiyoymer b'tchilas hatfiyah v'ashazira shukeoysa kein l'shem tzitzis. Kishyem l'isha tvi li tzizat talish and matas alach shem chevascha. Lach, we learn out it should make for you l'shem b'choiva, and that's time to make strings. You can't just buy stamp strings and use them. They have to be made l'shem tzitzis. I mean, not only put on the beged l'shem tzitzis, but also the shazira, making them into a string as made l'shem tzitzis. V'mloya yutavan l'shman, oishal hayu shazul l'shman. Sulin, it is possible, it has to be done l'shem. That's something you'll never know, because you don't know what the person did. You don't see whether it's done l'shma or not in the tzitzis. Even when they're doing the process of niput tzatzemer, that they are plucking out the bad ones and straightening out the tzemer, also should be the shema. Aval ein noying kain. That is not the minig. What happens if you have a guy doing it? Taba nachri, oishes shazar. I feel he saw Oymed Agabi Yid standing next to him. V'oymele Yashus seems to do it for tzitzis. Soon it's possible. The nachri yadait and afsheika avid. A guy does it for what his own reasons. He doesn't think about a mitzvah. And it chayshish divrei Yisrael. Half a page memches. Elamkei mesayei somat. Unless the Yid also helps. If the Yid is involved in the process, then it's not an issue.
What does that mean by again?
When they twist the string together. It's not just a tiny little thin string.
Right. Yeah.
Twist it together. See that?
Okay.
Avol im tavan oy shazon chere shoyte v'katan v'gam gada im hagaba v'oimel shiyasa shinzis kasher. Shayte v'katan is a yid, not a guy. And if I stand on top of them and I tell them, do it for this reason, why should he not do it for the mitzvah? He's a chayid. He has a neshama.
Doesn't have a die to the nafshek because there's no das.
So he does whatever you tell him.
Does
Whatever you tell him, right?
Why is a deaf person so?
A deaf mute, by the way. The Torah says cheresh usually always means a deaf mute. Both. Considered.
There's no intelligence because there's no way to learn.
Now we know.
Today we have methods of teaching them.
Right. Helen Keller, what was her name? The girl that but traditionally, b'chalal, someone who was deaf mute, and ad hayoyin, it's very difficult for them to have really. So how can we obligate them in mitzvahs? To tell some deaf mute, you're obligated to keep.
They also we can use them for a minion, right?
Yeah.
Cotton for sure.
No, deaf mute is a problem.
No, right.
He doesn't hear the amen.
If someone is, it's a problem for a minion. It's even harder. It's not only deaf mute. A minion is because you need to hear an answer. They can't hear, can't be part of minion, can't respond. That becomes another issue. But in generally, a deaf person or a mute person itself is chayiv in the mitzvahs of the Torah.
Yeah.
There are certain mitzvahs that require hearing or speaking. They might be excluded for those specific mitzvahs because of that issue. But in general, the chayiv mitzvahs.
Yeah.
But a teresh, which is eine shemeya eine medaber,
Doesn't know it's fine.
So I had a story. I mean, I knew of a story that had to do with my brother-in-law, and he had a program that he used to give smicha to Bachrim, and there was a certain Bacher who was he was a real cheresh. He was naturally born as an eine shemeya ve'ene medaber. However, he went to a special school, And he went to a special yeshiva they have in Toronto, yeshiva, for boys like this. And he learned how to speak to some degree. So now there came the shy like this. Bichlal, the Gemara says that if a deaf mute starts to talk, so there's a machlokes in Gemara, what's his status? If he starts to talk, his chiladaber, and the halacha is that if he starts to talk, we consider him like a pikeach, a chol davar, he's a pikeach, a regular chayv in all the mitzvahs.
Like the parish? The Gemara's talking about like the parish?
Yeah, but his chiladaber.
Yeah.
So naturally he was not medaber, but his chiladaber, we say that he is a medaber, a pikeach. And he's considered a regular pikeach, chayv in all the mitzvahs. However, this became a shaila later on generations with sign language. What happens if he did not hiskal davar, but he can do sign language? How do we view sign language? So lamaisa poiskim don't accept. I'm not ready to accept this as sign language as considered as talking. But what happens if they go to a special school which teaches them how to talk? So it's not shot that they had a natural thing happen to them at suddenly a certain stage in life, they started to be able to talk again. That the Gemara is talking about. They were trained how to talk. They go and get trained how to talk and to copy the speech and to learn how to do it. How do we view that? So Paiskim discussed this, and Lamaisa earlier Paskim, I think, is a Devrichaim about it, and Lamaisa Paiskim are Mekel that if we consider that as what Chazal say Hiskol Daber, if they're trained, the shaila with this cheresh was that he was not mamish Hiskol Daber. Even though people around him for a long period of time, they understood maybe like 20% of what he was saying. Most of the time he would communicate, it wasn't clear when he spoke. 25% they were able to make out and communicate with writing on the phone or writing on the paper.
Yeah, today you can write on a computer and the computer talks for you.
Oh, that's something else, yeah. He was a smart guy, by the way. He was very smart. He was able to learn. Yeah. The problem became because of the status, there were a number of Rabbanim who were supposed to sign on the smicha. One of the Rabbanim on his smicha paper of this Bach, he got tested for smicha.
Right.
But one of the Rabbanim said he can't sign on the zettel. Someone who's a cherish, what am I saying? I'm being masmich someone who's not together pikach. How can I bechal? He felt this is a chuchri tla. The other two Rabbanim held that it's not such a big deal. It's not a real smicha. It's just this, it's to make the person feel good, and just they didn't bother them. Because this specific Rav was very insistent that he's not signing it.
Did this cherish know sign language?
I'm assuming he did. I think they all do, but nice the person don't accept sign language.
Even today's times, right?
Yeah, it has to be his chuladaber. So it became a shaila, and Lamaisa eventually came to Rav Feinstein, the shaila. Yeah, and Rav Feinstein said that in the beginning he wrote. Someone came to him and said, someone offered he's going to Rav Feinstein to ask him the shaila, so come and ask him the shaila too. And Rav Feinstein wrote on a paper that Badvar hacheresh his chuladaber kupekech chol davar. He signed his name. The problem was that that wasn't the shaila. Shaila was that he wasn't talking regular. So it was a nuance shaila that only 20% of what he spoke.
He only started.
He's like Hiskal Daber. He's not saying Daber. Hiskal Daber.
No, Hiskal Daber means in Chazal that now he started at some point in life to start to talk. Like until now he wasn't. So he quoted the Chazal Kilo and said that, we pass it this way, and that's it. The Maisa was like back to square one. So someone went over to one of David. Someone contacted one of David's children, asked him if he can go and speak to him. No. This is years ago. This Maisa, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and asked him if he could clarify as what he meant. He said, "No, I didn't understand that was a shaila. That's a whole different parsha. That's a real suffix, and you have to go l'chuppah." Meaning, if it came to an issue of, let's say, being an aid it's not really major differences, really. The person doesn't push himself around to be an aid what exactly is it going to be a nafkin or? It's very. He
He
does himself mitzvahs. If he can't hear, he's anyways not chayiv. He can't hear shofar. He can't hear kriyas Torahs. He can't hear chazas Hashem. He can't be part of a minyan because he can't hear. But it's only for certain things of being an aide somewhere in a kedushin and a ksuba maybe. Very few. Huh?
They're never gonna use them. No person's gonna.
No. So Lamaisa is that he said that you have to. Later on, I found this. I heard this. This was not pertaining to me, but my brother-in-law was involved, so I knew about the story. But I later on saw that Moshe in his tshuva has a discussion about it, and he says the same thing. So, yeah, so I'm assuming that Abdava was aware of his father's sack, and probably gave it based on Moshe felt if you want to give this sack, the Chazal has to be clear. If it's not clear, then we don't really know. So it's like in between, and you have to go the chumrah, right? By the way, this person was very successful later on. Opened up some type of, made a lot of balei tshuva or teaching in the Torah in the deaf mute world via sign language and giving shiurim. I even saw him once interviewed like a number of years ago in the Amir in the Mishpacha magazine. Oh yeah, it was a featured thing.
This was 2 years ago.
So he probably was one of the individuals there.
He's very successful. There's a whole Chabad for deaf people.
Yeah.
Teaches honor.
Yeah. It's a little sad. Oh, but it gave the smicha. David said the smicha is not. The smicha is not. It doesn't really need a. Today's smicha is not really the koyach smicha v'amol, and he didn't hold it was an issue anyways. Gave it a smicha.
He said the smicha was okay.
Giving smicha is okay because he doesn't view smicha as the real koyach smicha from the Zman Gemara. He didn't he didn't view it as a problem. But Lagabi, whether his status, the real issue was not so much a smicha. It really came up to the smicha, but really it was negeya to know what's his status. What's his status in life? Where he's going to be? How is he going to halachically be viewed?
There's like, for example,
Opinion. You run into Shabbos.
Yeah, it's a special the kedushin, the gerushin. Could get married. The question is the gather, the gather if it's the rabbanan, and then take a look up those halachas, see what the gather there. There's no issur for the issur to get married.
You're a normal girl.
You have to remember the dinner. Yes, that's where it was really negeya. These type of things, not whether you get smich or not.
like you said before, like for example, if he's chayiv in mitzvahs, for example, like a regular ordinary person, right?
Right.
That would be
typically speaking. He could say I'm not chayiv, but Lapayel wanted. This individual wanted to be chayiv.
Okay.
He wanted to mitzvahs. He wanted to be part of it. He did not want to be pushed away. He wanted to be.
Very good.
And
so
you're right.
He had a will. He had a good will.
Right. Yeah. Very good will. Yeah.
So he with that.
And my brother-in-law told me he was very smart. Very smart individual. He helped him out a lot. He sat with him for hours and hours and wrote out all his shiurim for him. He couldn't hear any shiurim, so he wrote every shiur down with him for him. So he should read the shiurim and things like that.
It's a win-win. Everybody, he wrote the shiur.
Yeah, it just came up to this issue, and I take it, anyone who would be involved in Siddur Kiddushin of such an individual and things like this is going to have to work things out and figure out what the dinim are. Not so many things in life is it going to, a person can't avoid those situations. Okay, Sif Hey, Dalid Chute Hatzitzis Tzarich Litnem Latalis Olakoiflam Kedei Shiu Ches Chutim. They're supposed to be 8. So you're supposed to bend them over. Shenemer Psil Tcheles Shia Kaful Keim Psila. After they're folded over, all the 8 strings should be the size of Yud Bey's width of a thumb, of a gudel. The larger part of your thicker part of your thumb, not in the thinner parts. Shir hagudel sha'adam beinini u'kiroichev gimel sa'iris. Zayin sa'iris, correct. Shemenache zubet tzadzu bedoichik. If you take 2 barleys, 7 barleys, You put them one next to each other, side by side. You push them very tightly next to each other. That is going to be the size of a thumb. They are like the length of two barleys when they're not side by side. When you put them the length on each other, seven like this, sabitzazu, and then two like this, two soides.
Yeah.
Elu hayud beis gudlin moedidin la'achar she'asa kol hakrich zagasharim. Where do you measure this 12, the shear, only after the area where you're making all the knots? Maschil nimdin oisa misvas hakanaf, avakol shemunach halakanaf in lindid b'chal hacheshbin. It's not negated to us so much as halacha, the way things are made today, but we start to measure it when the strings pass the beged, not when they're on the kanaf. That's when you start measuring the Yubes good. It's not negated so much because our knots there's so many knots that it goes past, though that area goes past the kanaf anyways, usually.
Oh, right.
So the Yubes good anyway is going to be measured afterwards. But in the case where you didn't have all the knots, why they're not ma'akiv, all the knots. So in Indian Geret, if you didn't have, you always have. You start measuring Yubes good for the last kesher. But in an Indian Geret, if it only went till here, you only start measuring after. Kol ma shemunach ala kanaf ein linde b'chala cheshbon. Geen tzarich sheyeh oira kol chut medal chutim shloishim gudlin. You have to start off. Each one of the four strings is 30 gudlin long. Sheyich b'leim yeh kol chut meches chutin tesvav gudlin. When you bend them over, fold them over, each side, each of the four will be 15 gudlin. And then you take of the 15, you need to get to 12. So you do beis gudlin, 2 gudlin, in nekev atalis. Shabai toichvan tzitzis, from the hole that the talis tzitzis go through. Atz vasakonif is beis gudl. Shiur kesher a gudl. The gudl echel aksharim, another gudl for the ksharim. They didn't have so many ksharim. As the knots.
Maybe they made it very thin, not very small.
Very tiny, maybe, yeah. Very tiny strings.
Well, not tiny, but just thin. So, yeah, it's not such a.
Maybe not so many krichas.
Yeah. Oh, same proof. It's thinner wool, so it doesn't.
The strings are thinner.
Yeah, it doesn't create such a thick feeling.
Maybe, yeah. Interesting. You base Goodland, you tluyin, the hechsher atzitzis.
Or the hole's higher up in the talus. You might maybe have a Hasidic style with the 2 holes, not the 1 hole.
Because here it says only base Goodland from the top of the back, the end of the talus. In nekev a talus, atzvas akon is only base Goodland. Maybe we'll see more later on this.
What is the way it's worded when you said wrong? Revach?
Yeah, revach. Meaning not bedoichik.
Meaning extra? Revach meaning
Like,
extra?
not sticking it tight together.
Revach meaning not so tight,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Revach is tight.
A lot of times we find in measurements, in Torah measurements, there's a concept of hatseves or tseichakais. So it means is it's very tight next to each other or loose.
Okay.
Which will be a
Here
difference.
you're saying it's loose.
Well, the Zion Sa'oides, but that will be Beisayers Ba'ir.
Revach is tight.
Right.
And the Revach is
right.
two that go by the length.
It's Berevach, yeah.
The length of 2 volleys is Revach meaning loose.
Right.
Okay.
The 2 goglim are from the hole to the end of the baguette, and then from there is another 12.
Yeah.
So where's the 15? How do you get the 15?
Because 30 divided by 2 is 15.
Second.
Oh, 30.
Beis Gulum Nekev Hatalis. Jay Teichvenatzitis. Atzvasakon.
Original, the length was 30, then divided by
Oh,
2.
the Gudel Echad like Ksharim. No, and then they had another Gudel. The Ksharim don't start right away.
Right.
Well, they do sometimes, but let's say let's say over here you had strings and you didn't start the ksharim right away.
Oh, yeah, the true whole one.
Let's say you had the strings come over here. You had it over here until here. You only start the knots.
This is Lubavitch.
Yeah, 2 holes here.
7-1.
And how does it come out for you? Does it come out right straight? You see, look, it's not. It doesn't. Yeah. So now you can see the chiluk. You see in Shulchan Aruch this
Yeah.
time more.
See, it doesn't start from here. It
So
starts
you
from
have
here.
Bay's Goodlin over there, and then there's one Goodel for all the ksharim, which is not that way, and there's a lot of Goodlin. But Shulchan Aruch is writing there's one Goodel for all the ksharim. It's that all the ksharim are going to fit into this. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah. We'll soon see about how many ksharim and what's ma'akiv.
That's that Rizal style. That's that Rizal's name.
Has to do with the talus of the. This has to do.
It's not. They don't wrap it around. They make like knots on each kricha.
They don't wrap it around.
Man, the minute Ashkelon was just wrapped around. They roll up as a.
No, by Chabad there's another one.
Yeah, you have these things on top.
So how
Yeah.
do they do? What is it?
See, by Chabad you have this thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
By Sfardim, I thought.
So I don't have that.
So over here it comes out two like that. And by you have that room.
Look, you have a 2 hole.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on the siddur.
Oh, yeah.
Echad mehachutin yeh yoiser aruch k'nei sheyichah bayis hagdil. Shezbar b'simin zeh v'kamon. Now, one of the strings should be longer than 30 goodlin,
It has to go around.
because that's the one that's going to go all around, make the kriches. The ein leichut erech aruch kol kach, sheyachalich be'kol hakriches, yachalich tzas kriches b'chut zeh. Use each string for a little bit. Tzas kriches b'chut acher. He came bizman shehoya tchelas matzah hayu korching tzas kriches tchelas. And they anyways didn't do it for one string, because some would be from the tchelas, some wouldn't be from the. You want to even have longer tzitzis? You have these Israeli tzitzis that are very long.
Your son had it.
Yeah.
A lot of the Bachram like to wear they go to Eretz Yisrael and they get these tzitzis.
Yeah,
They're very
his son had it. It's like super long.
he went to Eretz Yisrael.
No.
They bring in the meaning here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the good thing for the teenagers to be involved in. So
Yeah,
they were long tzitzis.
That's no low choice.
That's what he says here, right? Good shaila. Rashai, v'yachol ahadichem k'maishi yitzik, as long as you want. V'toy glasses came. Kedei siftesh afilum yifsuku yishar behem yubeiz goodlin. Even if you have, see, the bachrim are all going like siftes. They all learn simiral siftes. That's what they're going. Tzitzis have to be from the same type of as the material of the kanaf. L'chein in oisim hatzitzis men hatzemer hanechaz b'koitzim.
Ain't oisin.
Shatzoyin roifsim b'neiim.
Thorny wool.
Basically, we don't make it from a low quality wool. Let's say when the sheep go through and get stuck on the thorns threads, it's not considered quality wool. Not from strings that were pulled off the tzayin. You don't take strings from leftovers, the ending of clothing they had where the strings continue on, the ending of a beged, you don't pull that off and use that for tzitzis. If also mehen tzitzis hareim psulim, sheim minim alol ruim lasim beged, sheim psoilis hatzemer. It's called psoilis hatzemer. It's not quality. Vein abeged nasis b'kamoisim. You don't make begadim from this type of material. When people make begadim, they don't make it from that type of wool. V'atoyra al mahakanof min kanaf. It should be the same type as the beged itself. Tzitzis, same quality that you would make a beged out of. Uhodin kol min itzema hagruin. Shein beged nasim psul netzitzim tam amr. There are different types of wool, and any wool which is considered inferior, we don't make that wool for tzitzis. Gaza chut l'shintu.
What is kricha mean again?
The ones that you wrap.
Kricha.
Kriches means when you go around. On
Yeah.
the tzitzis, you have those strings that go around.
All right,
Those are the rings.
okay,
The kriches are the rings.
okay. That's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
And kanif is the side.
Corner.
the corner.
Corner. Yeah.
I remember. Thank you.
Yeah. Gazal chutzin shel shem tzitzis v'halacha gaz also mem tzitzis hem psul shem also lahem mishalahem prat legazel.
Oh,
Your tzitzis have to be yours. It can't be stolen.
There's a
So the tzitzis were
thing.
stolen, even if they were not. Huh?
he's a religious thief. He's stealing this to make sense.
Yeah, in Israel there's plenty. Here also, you know. Prat legazel. You can't use something from gzela. V'macha gaz tzitzis la'asher. What happens if the gaz already sold the tzitzis to someone else? If the owners of the tzitzis already gave up, they're not going to see it again. It's kosher. Shekana is in the care, but Yush Baal machine is just my gaz in the care. The halacha is called Yush and Shinu Rishus. If the Bailam gave up and the tzitzis already changed hands, it's not by the gazim. The gazim himself can't use the tzitzis. But he sold it already. And now the kech realizes that that guy was selling stolen goods. So, am I yoitza? Am I yoitza? So, if we can determine that most probably the owners gave up and miyayish, and now it went over to a different. It's not, you're not borrowing from the gazan. Gazan sold it to you. It went over transferred ownership. In that case, it's kosher. So now we have a bunch of dinim about gzela, about avodah zarah, and which are not really negeya. So I think that for all good purposes, we should jump to Sif Yud Dalid. Sure, halachas that are negeya, page and aleph. When you make the hole that you put the tzitzis through, don't make it any higher than the width of 3 gudel from the edge of the beged. This should be on the corner. That's not the corner anymore. It's on the beged itself. You're supposed to make it on the corner. So up to 3 gulden, you can make it. If you did do that, when you pull it, you don't see it in our tzitzis, but in your tzitzis. You see that. Let's say when you pull it, it bends over the corner. So now it's not Gimel Gudlin. It's less than Gimel Gudlin. Still a problem. Even if when it sits, you tie it in a manner that forces the beged to be bent over, and when you measure it now, it's less than Gimel Gudlin. It's still a problem because it's really not. It's really tied earlier, higher up in the beged. It's not on the kanif. Siftez vav. If let's say you did make it higher than the hole higher than 3 gudlin, then you went and made the hole lower. You cut the hole lower. You went into the hole and you just kept on cutting lower. You expanded the hole, right? To make sure that the tzitzis will be below the amount of gimel gudlin puzzle. He's supposed to make gedilim, not ones that originally made puzzle. Once it's puzzle, it's puzzle. You can no longer make it kosher. This one extreme is not to go more than higher than 3. What about what's your lowest point? Don't make it right next to the edge of the beged. Shenemar al hakonif should be on the corner, not on the edge of the corner. It's all the way in the bottom. It's called the bottom of the corner, not called on the corner. So basically, a person's thumb from the first I don't know how you would call this, the first, what do you call where you bend it over here? This area, the joint, the first joint until the bottom of the nail. That size, the hainu le'erech beis gudlun.
Here,
Huh?
the big thumb.
What's it mean? Maybe it means from the bottom, from the joint over here.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Two
see.
places. We got this.
Beis gudlin. So basically, you should make it 2 gudlin away from the bottom. That's what we were talking originally saying, that you make it 2 gudlin. We're making the shiur miyud beis gudlin. We were makasher making
Probably from here.
30, maybe from there.
Two. Can't have too much.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. That's the unless we say no, it's safe hatzipoidan. What is the motion? It says at safe hatzipoidan. Maybe it means always at the top of the tzipoidan. No, that's what it means. L'chayda from here till the top of the nail. Safe maybe means safe this direction. From the bottom of the nail, all of this.
Only 21. Already.
You're fitting two, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Fitting two.
Please mute yourself.
Breaking news. This is what popped to the board.
I'm getting the news over here.
Joins us with that breaking news. This sounds like it could be pretty big.
Breaking news. In Agagak Shikoish is also Chelak Achotin Shalakon of Ktsarim.
Fox News now has resources.
Gapel the Kavish Shabbat Nekel Mata Mishir Filahachi Kasher. Aha. So L'chatchila, you should make it 2 gudlin away from the bottom of the beged. If you made it there, you made the hole in the right spot. Then you made the hole in the right spot, and then you went. It pulled down. I'm sorry, you made it over 2 gudlin. But then when you tie the tzitzis to the ending of the beged, it crumpled up the ending of the corner. Now it's less than beis gudlin. That's not a problem. As long as you l'chatchila made it over beis gudlin, away from the edge of the beged, it's kosher. Even if when you tied it to the ending of the beged, it folded over the beged and pulled the beged closer. Now it's no longer 2 thumbs width from the edge. That's fine. Shiur gudlin elo shamarno v'chein shiur maloi kesher egdel shetzarich laharchik moeded oisim b'yoisher. How do we measure it? Straight misvas oirech habeged. Chein misvas roich habeged. Even the oisim alachsim in ken zavi shakon habeged. This shiur that we're saying, you have to measure them not from the corner of the beged, from here, this way. So it's to be from the length, and or this way or this way.
But not diagonal.
Not diagonal, right? Not balachsim. So the Maisa, we don't go over 3, and we don't go under 2. It's in between that area where we make the hole. Now, interesting halacha in Sif Yud Ches. Shiur maloi kesher ugdal shamar. This amount that we said that it should be away from the back. We have to remove make the hole away from the edge of the bag, which is about 2 gudel. It's only important too that the outset when you look at tchila put the tzitzis on. Some of the hole ripped. The nekev expanded. The yard tzitzis went lower. They'll kosher. Kosher. The other way. What happens if the corner, the hole didn't expand, but the ending of the beged ripped? on the corners of the beged ripped. So now it became less. Pieces came off. And now the corner minimized. It's not a problem. Shekpida Torah zeh shaloi teitzis tachzakon b'shas siyasa. Shema also tzal kamfi. B'shas siyah has to be on the konaf. Later on, it's not on the konaf. It's not a problem. Kol makim v'chatchila tevlasis imris of a nekesh techveitzis. Chatchila, you shouldn't allow it to happen. You should make around the hole like a rim, like we have in our tzitzis, to make sure that it shouldn't rip. Why not? What's the issue? Not because it's the real issue, because people will see it, will say, Allah Chatchili didn't do it right. Also do this on the edge of the beged, which they taka do, the edge of the beged, to make sure that the kanaf stays itself, stays and doesn't come less. The shayif is a Shiur kasher egdel misvase adanekev. What happened? Some tzitzis they had. It seems like some tzitzis they had some type of like fancy thing in the edge, make the bag stronger. They had like another piece over here that they added, a rim or something around it. So what's the din over there? Yesh gidil shekrein lice b'sfasa beged shegoyin sham kadeshi chazak make the tzitzis stronger. Bein shagdil b'sfasa reichav beged. Whether this rim is the down or it's on the bottom or both. Don't put it on that rim, that trimming around. Don't put the tzitzis there, even if it's wide enough. That's not the beged. That's just a trimming. It has enough shear. We have a very wide trimming. It's considered secondary to the beged. It's not the actual beged. It's an added-on addition. It's not the actual beged.
What about the silk part? What about the silk part that's kind of as well?
Silk.
Yeah.
That's for Hiddur and Mitzvah.
Yeah, okay. Did
Yeah.
address this at all?
Yeah, it's going to be addressed, but it's mitzad a Hiddur. It doesn't pass all the tzitzis.
Of course not.
Yeah.
It's a different material.
Right. Put on to make noi to mahada the mitzvah.
Which is interesting that the previous hung up and it talks about different material being problematic.
Right. The reason why it's okay, the silk, is because the silk is not the ikar habeged. So it's still considered like it's wool on wool. It's not considered the ikar
So
habeged.
it's coupled to the set, right?
Yeah. Sivchav shamtil and tzitzis beged atzmei in tzol laharchim mitzvah beged maloi kesher egdil chutz men hagdil.
You don't have to count it as
Interesting. You don't. What we learned in your test is that you don't put the hole in that trimming, but you can use it for the shear of how far away it is from the edge. You just don't not to stick it in there. It has to be on the actual beged, but you could count the shear with the trimming. Shematil again sivchav shematil and tzitzis bebeged atzmei ein tzarich laharchim misfas beged maloi kesher egdil chutz min egdil. You don't have to have an actual beged itself. The hole has to be further removed to some widths away from the edge. Also, the idea of having it not more than 3 goydlin away. So that's over here is a chumrah, by the way. You can't go too further higher because we do consider the gdil part of the beged. It's all you can't go any more than gimel gudlim from the edge of the trimming. Tiyam galay kesh egdel. L'chila tev limdim galay kesh egdel b'lei hagdil. V'yenekev toich gim hagudlin im hagdil.
That's the same. Like Hesher, I go to Lahega.
Basically, the best thing is when the gdil is not too large. Trimming is smaller, and therefore you have the two goodlin. Better l'chatchila to have the two, even though we said lachlik you don't need to, but better to have the two goodlin in the actual beged. But you still can't go more than 3 from the edge of the trimming. So therefore, if it's a small trimming, so you can make it that there's 2 from there. If there's not a gudel in the actual width of the trimming. The imagdil rochav harbe yachtem ksasi. You should cut off some of the trimming if you want to do this l'chatchila toif. What happens if you have at the ending of begadim? You have sometimes the shesi and the erev are sticking out. I mean, they cut. Huh?
Totally matter. They have those.
Right. In misvas beged built-in shesi b'lei erev erev b'lei shesi. You should stop it. Im elu achut in echshavim b'chlal beged elav. It's not properly woven. It's just a string this way and a string that way. But it's not 2 strings woven into each other. So do we consider those parts sticking out the ending part of the beged, or they're not part of the beged? Lagabi all these shiurim. And so Elzar shliya nekev l'mayla megima gudla misfas hachutin halalu shema hein nechshavim b'chlala beged. Mesha hachutin hu rachav harbe. You have to cut it off a little bit. The guy mizar limdim like kesha agdel avad me'elo chutin shema nechshavim b'chlala beged. I don't know the mitzvahs, so how they are in these talisim.
They're raw, like
Here, the next later on, we're going to discuss a different nakuda about how about the krichis and things about how do they do on the talis? It's on both sides. Shukayach, everyone joining. If you'll come over, we'll have a minyan maybe.
The talus is kind of different from the.
How many are you missing? How many are you missing?
How many missing? Yeah, we're missing quite a few.
Missing 4.
We're missing 4. So
Okay,
we're going to be going to Rabbi Khan.
shkoyach.
Shukayach, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Yes.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.